All right. Well, good morning and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's event. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for today. If you've been following along, you know we've been celebrating conservation. We're talking to scientists, explorers, adventurers, and conservationists from all over the world who are protecting ecosystems as well as the amazing biodiversity found within. Now, today's the last day in November, but we still have incredible events coming today. We're excited to be taking our first virtual field trip live at the Lewa Wildlife Conservancy in Kenya. Lewa serves as a safe refuge for the critically endangered black rhino and the endangered Grevy zebra, as well as elephant, lion, giraffe, wild dog, and other iconic species in Kenya. The conservancy is also home to more than 400 species of birds. Lewa has combined techniques of world-class anti-poaching operations, cutting-edge monitoring technology, and engaging with surrounding communities and partners in conservation. We're so excited now to be joined by Ephantis Mugo. He's a conservation education coordinator at Lewa. I'll throw things over to Ephantis right now.
Good morning, good evening. Good morning, good evening. My name is Ephantis. I am the Conservation Education Coordinator for Lewa Wildlife Conservancy. Today we are talking about, we are taking through a journey about our conservation institution, which is about Lewa Wildlife Conservancy. Lewa is a protected area that is found in Kenya, and this is in African continent, which happens to be the second largest continent in the world. So today we'll be talking more about the journey of conservation efforts that has taken place in this facility, which is a place that has been set aside as a protected area for wildlife conservation and the habitat. My role in the conservancy, which I'll be sharing today, will be creating awareness to children and adults who visit Lewa to learn more about wildlife conservation. And maybe what we'll be talking about today is why is it important to inform the public or the young and the adults about conservation. I wish just to mention that our environment, our wildlife only relies on what we do in the environment. And one of the things that I would like just to mention is that we need to learn and understand our role as human beings to help really change the state of the environment. I know unless we share this, unless we learn about the wildlife, we are not going really to appreciate. And Lewa as a conservation institution, we are lucky that we have a diversity of wildlife, and we'll be able to talk through about all this as we move on. So just to start with is that Lewa Wildlife Conservancy journey has been a long journey, and 100 years ago, I would like just to mention that this place used to be a cattle ranch. It used to have to be a farm for livestock, and behind this keeping of livestock being kept here for like 50 years. In this case, much of what was known about Lewa was about livestock conservation. But the family which owned the land, the family of the Clay family, kept this land for livestock conservation, and just like any other communities used to have in this world, they used to live with the wildlife and kept wildlife together with livestock. Just like we have the pastoral communities who are neighboring the facility, what they have been doing. So keeping livestock and wildlife together wasn't very easy, but again, being the focus of livestock production, then Lewa had to that was the main focus of that. And something happened that really made the organization to really shift from livestock to conservation, and this is in 70s, between 70s and 80s. There was a lot of wildlife poaching in Africa in general, in Kenya, in Africa, and many other parts of the world. And this is because humans were sourcing were poaching animals for trophies, such as rhinos for their horns, other wild animals for their meat, and we also have some animals that were being killed for tusks. And this extension, we have some animals really affected, those who are really targeted, the black rhinos. And the case in this is the black rhinos, whose numbers were able to decrease massively. And one good example I would give is that in 1970, between 1970 and 1983, for 12 years, we had a decline of black rhinos in the country due to poaching, going down from more than 20,000 rhinos to less than 280 individuals. That was really a very big decline that really meant the family think about doing something towards addressing the issue. If you are to look at that numbers, which is a decline of 20,000 black rhinos to 280, that is like losing 4 to 5 rhinos every day for really 12 years. So that was really a massive decline, and something had to be made. I don't know, you as a student, as a citizen from whichever country you are, I don't know what you would have done at that point if your business was livestock production. It is at this time that the family, during the process of getting hurt because of the wildlife reduction, a family friend who came from South Africa by name Anamas came to Lewa to visit the family by 1983, and they were able to really help the family together, put their hands together, think about conservation. And very interesting that the radio was able to convince the family to work together and think about ways they can do to really address the situation. So they were able to set aside a small area just to put some rhinos in the conservancy, and in this case a rhino sanctuary by name Gare Selgoi Rhino Sanctuary was initiated or started in 1983, and it is at this time that they were able to put together 15 rhinos that they were able to start breeding, and with time they added some additional rhinos, which in this case we had 12 more rhinos that have been added since the inception. And because of the breeding and the numbers of rhinos increasing, really the rhino was the old conservancy, or the old land that was initially meant for livestock production, was really put into conservation. And I would like to say that this was really a benefit to not just the rhinos, but to other wildlife numbers that were really declined by then. And in this case, we are talking about elephants, the African elephant, the giraffes, the lions, and other wild animals that have been affected in one way or another. And their numbers started increasing, and that is why I would say it was really beneficial for all the wildlife that were really thriving in the region and in the country. So with that progress in wildlife numbers, I would like to mention that Lewa was able to get his formal registration as a conservancy in 1995, and that is one of the things I would like to mention, that as we said, 50 years in livestock production, then later transforming the whole landscape into a conservancy. It is something that really took more than just a short while. And we say that Lewa as a conservancy has been just really beneficial to plenty of wildlife and the communities, as we'll be able to talk about as we really move on. As a result of all those efforts that happened since then we had the other wildlife numbers, which I would like just to share with you, really being able to increase to the manner that Lewa has now become the pioneer, the leader in the region in terms of endangered species conservation. And in this case, I would like to mention that we are home to a very big percentage of black rhinos in the country, that is 14%. Maybe easy to say is like in every 30 rhinos, 4 rhinos in this country are found in Lewa. So that is just easy to mention that. And we also happen to have other endangered animals like the Grevy zebra, which is a very rare type of zebra and found in very limited landscape. And in this case, we are really excited really to be a leader in the conservation of the Grevy zebra. In this case, we have 11% of the wild population, where the wild population is around 2,600 individuals. If you are to go that mathematically, it's like in every 10 rhinos we have everywhere in the world, one of them is really found in this country. Apart from those endangered species, we still have lions, we still have other mammals like the reticulated giraffes, we have buffaloes. We talk about the big five, we have all of them here. And by just mentioning, we have 70 different large mammals that are found here. We are proud to say that in terms of the other diversity of wildlife, we happen to have more than 450 species of birds, which really roam freely in the conservancy. And apart from the birds, we would be also like to say that reptiles, snakes, that is snakes and tortoises, and insects have really been massively found in the conservancy. So this is one of the achievements that I would like to say in terms of wildlife diversity the landscape has been able to be proud of, considering that this is one area that was initially not really thought about for all that. So why is that really the case? Was the conservation journey really that successful? Was it that easy? Maybe by looking at the numbers, looking at the 50 years of livestock conservation, livestock keeping, one might easily think it was very easy to really have wildlife numbers increase dramatically. But the last period was the achievements of the last few years has been as a result of the Lewa having a principle whereby they realize that for you to achieve conservation, you need really to engage the communities. And as I started by saying, we need to, people will only conserve what they really love. And for them to love, they need to be informed about the wildlife. And as a result, Lewa had to go beyond just keeping livestock and using the rangers, but engaging the communities to love, to understand, so that they can be able really to appreciate and participate in conservation. And in this case, conservation success has been as a result of the community engagements, where they actively participate in wildlife identification as well as surveillance in their areas. But more so important is Lewa's benefit, which they are able to get from conservation through tourism and through other incomes. They are able to, this is shared in the community. And this is one of the things that have been really very rewarding. And being a conservancy, definitely, the Lewa has been having a workforce which really requires to employ people, and in this case Lewa has been able to employ more than 300 personnel, and in this case 75% really come from the neighborhood, being one of the things or that really encourage the communities to appreciate conservation as it is a source of revenue in their area. Again, engaging with the communities in water conservation projects such as water. Today, and by today we have 10 water projects whereby that are across the whole communities, and these water projects help serve 20,000, more than 20,000 beneficiaries getting clean water that is safe for their health. But again, the women in the communities also get an opportunity to really undertake their businesses, and in this case Lewa provides some revolving fund where they can borrow some money, reduce at a very minimal percentage, and that enables them to have some income which really they do not necessarily need to rely on the environmental resources to really have the money. Young children are key really in conservation, and Lewa continues to support the schools in the neighborhood. And this is Lewa happens to be on the very dry part of the country, on the leeward side of the famous Mount Kenya. And in this case, there is very little rainfall, and therefore the schools have not been really well established. So Lewa has supported the schools in infrastructure, building the classes, as well as supporting them in digital content, whereby we get them with the computer, we give them the content that ensures that every child has an access to the content, because not always they have content to the textbooks. And therefore, by doing that, more than 10,000 students really benefit through this opportunity. To encourage also to send more message on conservation, Lewa has been able to establish a conservation education program that brings students here every year, and more than 5,000 students would really participate and learn more about conservation. And when they go back to schools and communities, they initiate projects that they are able to really address some environmental challenges that face in their area. Again, to really help them take on with their careers, we have been supporting the students with bursaries, where every year there are more than 400 students benefiting from our bursary program. And in this case, we believe that having got this opportunity from conservation, they are able to really appreciate that conservation has value in their lives. We believe that a healthy society really is a key determinant when we are talking about conservation. And conservation, as we just mentioned, we need the community engagement, we need a healthy society. So Lewa supported 4 clinics allowed the conservancy, and in this case, a healthy nation will contribute to helping those outside there to undertake their farming activities and their everyday activities, and they may not necessarily think about other sources that may have negative impact on the environment. So, having mentioned about community engagement and everything else that we do, it's something that I would like to mention that we work with the government really to ensure that we are in line with all the ministries, if it is the Ministry of Education as well as the Ministry of Healthcare. And as a result, we have really been able to celebrate different achievements. As I mentioned initially, is that Lewa was able to start a sanctuary with 15 black rhinos. Today, by November, Lewa has had an opportunity to have 154 births of black rhinos since when it was started. So this is really a very big positive, considering that in 19 as 83 when Lewa was being started, the number of rhinos in this country was very, 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 very few. The white rhinos also found in this country have also been, Lewa has been also played a very key role in ensuring that we conserve other species like the white rhinos, and we have numbers, several numbers that have been born through the interventions here. As a result, several organizations, international conservation organizations, have been able to acknowledge our efforts of changing the environment, and in this case, Lewa was able to really be inscribed as a world, by UNESCO, as a World Heritage Site, and in 2013. This is because of its useful role in conservation and cultural, and the cultural work and biodiversity work that we have here. The IUCN was able also to appreciate what the work of Lewa, and Lewa was green listed in the same year. And IUCN really raised those institutions that have the best standard in conservation. So those are some of the achievements, and it is one of the reasons why we say that Lewa as a Rinda, we have learned several other conservation initiatives that organizations, individuals really come to learn and implement. And today the biggest challenge has been that I would pose to everyone is, what is it that you are doing to really make the difference? The journey was not really smooth. We realized that sometimes somebody had to leave what he loved most, livestock, to move into wildlife conservation, and he has made a positive change to the species. And this change can only be achieved if each one of us can really have something contribute positively to the environment. And you may not be having an elephant in your county or in your society, but you can really contribute to doing something for the environment. And that's the journey that the Lewa has really earned to take throughout the life. So that is my story about the journey that Lewa Wildlife Conservancy earned to take, and I will be available for more questions and any other comments. Thank you for listening.
An awesome, awesome lesson. The work being done at Lewa is absolutely incredible. So a huge congratulations. Awesome, awesome lesson. The work being done at Lewa is Yep. All right. Well, Fantas, huge shout out. Thank you for sharing that work with us, the amazing conservation work that is being done at Lewa. Huge congratulations to you and your team. I want to give a shout out to some of the classes who are joining us live today. Ms. McLaughlin's grade sixes in the Niagara region are hanging out with us. Miss Morningstar's class is hanging out with us as well. So let's keep those introductions coming in the chat. It looks like we have Mrs. Heisler joining us from Ohio in the US. Let's keep those coming in. So we're going to start bringing in questions here. And the first one came in from Mrs. Morningstar's class, and they're really curious about the technology they saw in the schools. They're wondering, was that made possible through the conservation work being done at Lewa?
Sijapata.
Anauliza about technology. Hiyo technology inatumika kwa darasa. If it was part of the conservation projects to allow that they're interested in knowing. Ukonea, endelea.
Yes, regarding the technology that we use in the classrooms, Lewa has initiated the process one purpose to expose the students to computer, because initially very few students had the opportunity to learn on how to use the computer, but at the moment the lessons incorporate conservation activities, conservation ideas on what they can do in school, but more important, it also supports the school curriculum, because schools have not had an opportunity to really have enough textbooks for all the kids, especially in our area. And therefore, this is an opportunity to really fill the gap that the students might be experiencing. The question on the biggest threat to wildlife, I would like to mention poaching has always been one of the key threats, because as you realize from the numbers that I have led, human beings were able to really kill 20,000 rhinos, especially the case of 1970, to less than 300 individuals within 12 years. So one of the biggest threats is poaching, and today it remains the biggest threat, because when the demand for the rhinos or for other trophies is there, that becomes a bigger threat to the security and anything else, any other efforts that everybody does. So climate change may be there, but again, for individual species, I would say poaching has really played a very big challenge. Question about COVID, and COVID has been a big issue across the group, and still when it comes to conservation, Lewa Conservancy, COVID has really affected us massively, because the Lewa's operation really rely on tourism. Most of the incomes really is through tourism, tourists that visit Lewa, and really that has really affected movement of people to come in this country, and therefore the income that the Conservancy was getting is really affected. On the other hand, those friends and generous donors that were really contributing, supporting our work, in one way have also been affected, and they have not been able to support as they used to do. And there's another question about was it slow process to get the community engaged in conservation? Definitely it wasn't very easy, but in community engagement, it is not about getting to them to tell them what to do, but involving them to really appreciate. And I would like to mention that one of the biggest successful entrants was to enable the community initiate projects that they receive tourists in their facilities, because wildlife has also been looming in their facilities, that they could get tourists, and therefore the buy-in was a bit very easy, because they could themselves get visitors visiting their area, and therefore they got to appreciate the value of conservation. Again, generally, conservation is not just about animals. If people really understand that the plants, the soil, the water that we take care of at the end really benefits each one of us, then everybody does the true thing to make the difference. And that was really the engagement that we did. A question on how the black rhinos can get. We can get, they can, in the conservancy like here, rhinos would live for between 35 to 40 years. That is in the wild. But if they were in captivity, the cases of some rhinos in most of the places where they keep them in the zoos, these can be slightly more than that because of the other care that they get. But in the conservancy, in the wild like this, we have 35 to 40 years. The elephants in the conservancy have been growing, and I would like to mention that Lewa plays a very important role in connecting the elephant movement from Mount Kenya. I just mentioned that Mount Kenya is one which is now a World World Heritage Site, is a conservation area with elephants, and we have some other areas in northern Kenya that have been home for elephants. Lewa has played a very important role in connecting the two landscapes, and therefore sometimes we have been having more than 600 elephants like crossing through the conservancy from one ecosystem to another. Sometimes, so I would say the elephants have been growing, and the numbers sometimes get much high because we really utilize this landscape for feeding and for other means like water. There's a question about a sign behind me on the black rhino, on the head of the rhino. I would like to say the transformation of the cattle ranching to rhino conservation. Lewa had to think about a rogo or something that really they use in their rogo. So the rogo there is actually our rogo. The rhino head is actually our rogo, which is actually what we use in all our applications. How old can elephants get? Yes, elephants can live for 65 to 70 years. That's their lifespan. And the question on why they are killed, you must have seen in the books and every other places for those who have visited elephants that they have two long teeth in their hand. Those are their incisor teeth. And elephants are actually killed for those teeth, which is really very bad to kill an animal that is 7 tons just for 2 teeth that they carry. And it is unfortunate that every tusk of an elephant that you see out there, any product from the elephant, really is an elephant that has died. There are two. We have dry season in Kenya and wet season. Currently, we are in the wet season. We don't get extreme weathers where we have snow, but our November, December, October, November, December are normally the wet month. March, April, and May are also the other wet season, whereas the other months of August and September, January, February are a bit dry. And we talk about the dry weather and the cold weather season, and the dry and the wet seasons. Students from America, they feel they are very far from Kenya. They are wondering what they can do. I mentioned earlier that there are several things that you can be able to do. Conservation is not just about animals. Waste management has been a big problem across the globe, and waste management is one thing that we can contribute into doing. Tree planting, climate change has also been another challenge. When you plant a tree, you help the environment. When the environment is not as hot, wildlife that live there is also benefit from that. So when you plant a tree, if you manage your waste properly, you can do that. Creating awareness to our fellow students and parents and the community at large is one of the other things that you as a student can really contribute. Again, we have always talked about products that come from wild animals. We know that the demand for the products is one of the things that really lead to wildlife decline, and therefore as you grow up realizing that those products that we might be buying or parents may be buying have an impact on the environment, then you have a responsibility to create that knowledge and awareness that we need to stop buying products that are from wild animals. So there are several other things that you can, those are some of the things that you can do as a student wherever you are there.
Some questions there on YouTube.
Questions now. I can't check questions on YouTube. Yes, I'll. Okay, when there's drought, there's a question about what we really do to help the animals. I would like to mention that animals in Lewa, unlike many of the zoos and other animal orphanages, animals get their food naturally, and in normal times we don't really feed the animals. But when there is drought, one of the modifications that Lewa has been trying to do is ensuring that animals get reach to the water. So we have trying to develop some water points for the animals as they roam around, they're able to access water. But also we help also improve the landscape in terms of ensuring that we have we have animals that we have areas that animals, those that feed on plants can access those areas, whereas those really overbrowse the plants have limited some access. So there's a management plan to ensure that the zebras, the rhinos are able to get access during the drought in those areas that would otherwise they would otherwise not really be able to access. Conservation projects that are starting soon. We, as I just mentioned, we work with schools and communities in being creative to ensure that they get engaged on various projects. And one of the things that has been continuous, and sometimes we start in different areas, has been a forestation program, planting of trees in the communities, where we engage the schools, we engage the young ones to really help improve their school environment. So that is one of the things that we really engage the communities to do. The zebra in the conservancy, somebody wanted to know the difference. I would like to say in the country we have two main types of zebras. One of them is the Grevy zebra, and the other one is Burchell's zebra, or the common zebra. Burchell's zebra is normally called the common zebra because you find it in many continents, in many countries in the world. But when it comes to Grevy zebra has a very limited distribution, found in some countries in like Kenya, Somalia, Eritrea, and around our neighbors. Those are the original distribution of Grevy zebra. But by look, Grevy zebra will have very thin stripes. They have no stripes on the belly. they are also bigger in size compared to the common zebra, which many people have always known to have wider black and white stripes, and they are also smaller in size. Keystone species in Lewa, I mentioned about black rhino being in Lewa. We have black rhinos, we have lions, we have leopards, we have buffaloes, and we have cheetahs. We have, I talked about the elephants. So when people talk about the big five, those are all animals we have in Lewa. But above that, we have other animals that are found in Lewa, like the hippopotamus. We have the giraffes. We have a variety of antelope, more than 10 different types of antelopes, and as I just mentioned, many more bands that are here. I've been able to answer all the questions in the chat, and I want to thank everybody for listening. And if there will be more questions or any concerns or comments and anything else that you'd like to know, please feel free to send us an email or give us a call, and we really appreciate. Do the retro thing wherever you are, because it helps the environment, it helps wildlife, and you as a human beings, you also benefit. Thank you very much. Back to you, Joe.
Kuna mtu aliuliza hiyo. Haya sawa.
Hiyo kibao.